So we're going to start by opening Fieldbook. And the first thing that happens when you open it is that you will have this changelog that lists any updates or changes since the last time it was opened. Okay, so we can go ahead and close out of this. Okay, so now we have the opportunity to load sample data, but we're going to say no because we want to go through this manually. So no on that. We have the opportunity to open a tutorial that'll walk us through how to use the app, but I'm going to be your tutorial in this case. So we'll say no to that. All right, now this is the settings screen, and it's really laid out in the order in which you need to access things. So is anybody not here? I'm assuming that everyone's here, and if you're not, you need to, it's no problem. Like, we're all learning and teaching and everything. But we want to be at this screen. Okay, you're there. Okay, so we're going to start up at the top and work our way down. So the first thing is fields. So we'll open fields. And it's currently empty because we didn't load our sample data and we haven't imported any fields. So we're going to hit the plus button. And now we have a list of the files that were in our field import folder that when we connected the phone to our laptop. All right, so when we want to import a file, we need to go to the import button. It opens a list of our files. So we'll just choose field sample to walk through what each of these things means. So within our field, we need to assign 3 different columns. We need to assign the unique identifier, the primary order, and the secondary order. So the unique identifier is our unique ID. So every plot has its own unique ID so that we can tell it apart from each other plot. The primary order in this case is going to be our row. So you select that and select row from the dropdown. And then the secondary order will be our plot. Now these are flexible, so in your breeding program or your field experiments or greenhouse experiments, you can really select what makes sense here. So if you have 12 benches, you could select bench as one of the orders, just to kind of give you an idea of where you are while you're collecting data. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. All right, so now we have one field imported. And so within this field management screen, we'll have our list of fields. And in each item within that list, we have our field name. So in this case, it comes from the file name that was imported, so field sample. Underneath that, we have the date that it was imported. And then underneath that is the number of entries that were in that file. So on that date row, it will also show, once we start collecting data, it'll show the date when the file was last edited. And then once we export data, it'll show the date when the file was last exported. So we can look through our list of fields and know exactly when was the last time we collected data, when was that exported to a separate file. And if we need to change that, then we can. Okay, so we're going to import a second file. And we have the options of importing from Dropbox directly or from the local tablet itself. So we'll select local. We'll select field sample 2. Now once you've imported a file, the app does remember what you selected as the unique identifier, primary and secondary order, and just suggests those as settings. So in this case, we can just go ahead and import that file. Okay, and so after we've imported that second file, you can see that our selection is now on that file. So if we were going to go out to the field to collect data, it would be for that trial. Okay, does everyone have 2 files imported? That's the real question. Does anyone not have 2 files imported? If I walk around and see someone that doesn't have 2 files imported, looks good, good, good. You already nodded once. You know what's going on. You're good. All right. All right, so we've imported some files. So the next thing that we can do is go back. And just working down the list, we can go to our traits. So just for demonstration purposes, and this is what you would do with Fieldbook and Cassava Base together as well, we're going to import the list of sample traits that comes with the app. It's just a super simple list of traits, but it shows off what Fieldbook can do for everything else. So up in the top left, in this general area, there will either be an icon or a menu. So open the menu, or click on the icon, and we're going to want to select the Import/Export option. And since we are importing a list, we will select the Import option. So I have a list from a separate training, but I also have the trait sample lists. So the list that we want to import is the trait sample list. So we'll just select that from the list. And now we have all of our traits imported. So just to kind of break down how all the information that's coming from this screen. So each row is a separate trait. On the far left is the scroll bar. So if you want to rearrange the traits, you can select one and scroll up or down. So if I want to put the number of plants up at the top, I can just move it up there. The next thing going along the row is a menu button. So if we open that menu button, we have the option to copy, delete, or edit any of the traits. So if you're collecting, say, height, but you want to collect it 3 times, you can create 3 different height traits by copying the trait. Or if you need to delete a trait because you miscreated one or edit a trait for any reason, a similar reason, I guess, then you have those options available. All right, so the next thing after the menu is the check mark. And basically what this means is that if we want to collect this trait, if we want it to be visible from the main collection screen, this box needs to be check marked. If we don't want to collect a specific trait, we can uncheck it. And what this lets us do is create all of our traits or import all of our traits, and then uncheck and check the traits as needed. So after the check mark is the icon of the trait. I'll get there. Yeah, step by step. Okay, so after the check mark is the icon of the trait format. I'm going to cover the formats when we go to the main screen for data collection, but each icon just represents a different format. And then the last thing is the trait name. So we have plants, color, lodging, and those formats are counting, categorical, and percent. So if we want to, so still dissecting kind of what all is on this screen, the first icon on the bar at the top is a sort icon. So if we select that one, we have the options to sort by the trait name, what format it is, and whether or not it's currently visible on the main screen. So if I select trait name, now all of these traits are in alphabetical order. Now, if I go through and don't want to collect 5 traits, I uncheck them. So they're unchecked now on the trait lists. Now I can sort them by the visibility. And all of those that are unchecked go down to the bottom. So the next thing up at the top is the double check mark. And if we want to turn all of the traits on or off, we can hit that, press that button. And so that will, in this case, disable. And if we hit it again, we'll turn all of them back on. What? Yeah, so that's the furthest thing on the left. The first one. So this, you see my pointer? It's this one right here. Can you see the pointer on there? Okay. And so if I select this, then I can move up and down. Are they in the menu? Yeah, the 3 dots is the menu. And so depending on the size of the screen, sometimes it puts things into the menu. Okay, the icon that I didn't cover is the trash can, and that deletes all of your traits. And so you probably don't want to do that. And there's at least 2 warnings, or 1 warning or so, before you actually delete traits. Okay, so the other one that I didn't cover is adding traits. So if we hit the plus button, we have the ability to add additional traits. And so just going through this, once again, row by row, we have our format, so the type of trait that we want to collect. Oops. And we have all of our different formats listed, and I'll go over kind of the difference of those in a second. We have the trait name. So in this case, we'll collect something like stand. And then we have different options depending on what type of trait that we're collecting. So in the case of numeric, we have an option for default, so a default value for that trait. We have an option for the minimum or the maximum, so we have quality control over the data points that are collected. And then we can also add details in addition to having those requirements. And then the details is just listed on the main screen. And if you need helpful information on maybe how to score that specific trait, you just have those details right there. So I'm just going to leave all of that blank and save that trait. And now at the bottom of the list, we have a new trait. So 1, 2, 3, it's a numeric trait. So we're back to this, the settings screen. So we went through fields, we went through traits, and next is profile. And really this is just a way to tie some metadata back to the people and the places where that data is being collected. So we have 2 different options. We have the person and we have the location. So I'm going to set the person. First name and last name. And then I'll set the location, which may or may not work on your phones because I don't know if they've had time to get the GPS satellites. So you might not get a location. That's okay. So once I have both of these set, that's all I have to do on profile. There's nothing else. And this gives an idea of the relative location of where your data is being collected, and more importantly, who is collecting your data. So then you can go back to that person and ask them how they collected 100 data points in 5 seconds.
So are those
All right, so I'll close this. Okay, now we can go back, and you should see a screen similar to this. Hopefully, looks a lot like this.